Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone joining us from different parts of the world. My name is Kevin, and I'm honored to serve as the moderator for today's webinar organized by PMO Global Alliance Sub-Saharan Africa Hub. On behalf of the entire PMO GSSA Hub team, I would like to warmly welcome all the PMO leaders, the project professional, portfolio managers, transformation leaders, strategy practitioners, and you joining us today. Thank you for investing your time. This is an important conversation about the future of the project management office and strategic value delivery. Today's session is titled Building an High Impact PMO Governance, Talent, and Tools. And during the next 60 minutes, we will explore how modern PMOs can evolve from operational support structure into strategic engine and enterprise performance. So, next, please. Before we begin the discussion, let me briefly introduce PMOGA. The PMO Global Alliance is the largest community dedicated to PMO professional and was formed in the early 2010s with a mission to advance PMO practice worldwide. In January 2024, PMO was officially integrated into the Project Management Institute, and its strength is global reach and impact. Today, PMOJ operates through regional hubs around the world, including our Sub-Saharan Africa hub, which focus on regional knowledge development, collaboration with PMI chapters, cross-community learning, and advancing PMO capabilities across industries. So these hubs are volunteer-driven community that promote knowledge sharing, cost-hosting events, collaboration between practitioners and advocate for the PMO profession. And for the today's subject, the webinar focuses on fundamental question. How can PMOs become high impact structures that shape strategy and drive measurable results? To answer this question, we will explore three key pillars: governance, the structure that align PMOs with enterprise strategy; talent, the capabilities and leadership needed within modern PMOs; and tools, the system and enablers that support portfolio execution and decision making. Together, these elements forms the foundations of a high impact PMO capable of influencing strategy execution. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Chidongo. Victor is a PhD candidate, certified PFPM for portfolio management, PMP, and uh, a head of PMO with more than 24 years of experience across portfolio management, program leadership, strategic transformation, and ICT. He has led complex portfolio across multiple industries and has built and transformed high-performing PMOs in the financial service sector across Africa. His work focus on portfolio governance maturity, PMO leadership positioning, and the strategic integration of technology with enterprise transformation. So Victor is not only a practitioner but also a thought leader in PMO evolution, helping organizations move from project execution towards strategic realization. Victor, it is truly a pleasure to have you with us today. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Greetings to everyone. I believe we are all in different parts of the world, and we are on different timelines at the moment, which means I can just say good day to all. And having said that, it also gives us an impression in terms of how the PMO is structured within the various organizations. And when PMOGA approached me sometime end of last year, Kevin has been very persistent. He requested that perhaps I could come in and share my experiences. And I normally want to speak from my heart, but he gave me a topic. He said, can you talk to this topic? And we'll try and address that. So it's very, very important for us to be here. And thanks, Kevin and the team at PMOGA to arrange for such a platform, which I believe is truly strategic. And it's quite a timely conversation. But before I delve into the topic, in December 2023, I had the privilege of attending the PMO Global Alliance conference. But America doesn't want to call it conference. It calls it unconference. So it was PMO Ancon in 2024, which I attended in Turkey, Istanbul. So I was not there as a participant, by the way. I was honored to receive an award on behalf of the PMO that I was leading at the time. It was a hard-fought journey, I must say. And we competed shoulder to shoulder with PMOs from listed companies, pushing ourselves at every stage. And through determination and resilience, we prevailed. And we advanced all the way to the quarterfinals of the highly coveted Africa PMO of the Year award. So you see in the picture there, that's me there standing with Americo Pinto, who is the managing director of PMO Global Alliance. But that is a story for another day in terms of how the competition was. But when I arrived in Turkey, I made this conscious decision. And for me, it was a strategic decision to take a step back and listen. I wanted to learn from PMOs that are operating in developing countries because I'm from Africa, and yeah, PMO heads and leadership from the first world countries that are there. So I genuinely asked myself what value I could possibly bring and aid to the conversations with colleagues from these developed countries. However, by the time we had our third plenary session, my perspective had shifted completely. As I listened to the challenges being shared, it became very, very clear to me that we're not underdogs after all, from the Africa perspective. In fact, many of the issues that I started hearing that we face in Africa were equally and sometimes more acutely present everywhere else. So please don't misunderstand me with that statement. But what became evident for me is that these are not uniquely African problems. They are global challenges. The difference is not capability or maturity. It is context. So it is important to ask ourselves this question. So why am I here today? And why are you here today? And in my opinion, it's all about iron sharpening another iron. In Latin, they actually say docindo dismas, which means by teaching, we learn. So I'm learning, you are learning, we are sharing ideas. But I'm grateful that PMOGA has arranged this. And I would want to thank Americo Pinto and the team that is working with. But before I go into my subject, let me pay rent to PMOGA. Who are they and what do they stand for? And you can see my colleague is already showing you that PMOGA, they are driving towards global unification and leadership. So the philosophy there is focused on outcomes. And they also driving towards community and regional adaptation. So I'm trying to sell the idea in terms of who PMOGA are so that you can also understand. And the understanding is from a sub-Saharan Africa perspective, the context is we have a very complex execution environment. And there is limitations as well when it comes to traditional PMOs. And therefore, PMOs should then play that strategic stabilizer role. And it's important to be aware of the area that we are operating in. And that was the next slide that I was referring to. But having said that, this is the slide I was talking to now. But moving on to where we are now, colleagues, the game has not changed. It's still the same game. New play. The soccer that you knew in the 90s or 80s is still the same soccer that they are playing, but they've added the VAR. Everyone speaks about the VAR now and say, let's go and check. But the game is still the same. The scoring is still the same. The counting of the points is still the same. Same game, new play. And we must take this mentality when we now start talking about the subject that we have today. Now, let's begin. So, colleagues around the table, here is my question to you. When your organization talks about strategy, who is accountable for ensuring that that strategy actually translates into results? Who are they looking at? Traditionally, or common sense would tell you that you would want the PMO to drive that. But are you given that opportunity to drive it? Because whether you are given that opportunity or not, then tells us and shows us how you are valued within that organization. Let me take you to familiar grounds. Some of you that have gone through the PMOGA would understand and appreciate this picture that I'm showing you, that you should be able to run a golden thread from your strategy to your portfolios, to your programs and projects, all the way to operations, which we traditionally call the business as usual. And this is where you need to make sure that you can, as a PMO, run that golden thread. If you cannot run the golden thread where you can influence the senior leadership to decide what we are going to do, which is the key here, decide. How do we then govern it from a PMO perspective, running and executing these projects, how we do it, delivering those projects, and how do we then measure whether it was worth it or not? That we are talking about realization of the benefits. If you cannot drive and show that golden thread, believe you me, your PMO has been relegated to places where you will never be able to recover it. So coming back to my question, as a PMO or a member of the PMO, or whatever name, you can go back to that slide again, Lord, where we were, or whatever name they call you, are you anywhere near the strategy room? The reality is PMOs still are now seen as reporting engines. Here we heard this story. If you go to Google anyway, type in there, you'll find this story, you'll find this information. It's not something new. You're just hearing it perhaps from a different voice, pitch, or from a different angle, but it's things that you know that you've heard. So you're now being regarded as reporting engine, a compliance body, administrative support function. And sometimes we as the PMO, we take the blame. We appear to slide towards that policeman syndrome more often than not. And while we are sitting in our detailed conditioned schedules, 1,005 line of schedule, we take pride in that. That I've got a 1,500 line schedule that I do have. But today's session, we want to change that positioning. And in the next couple of minutes, we can then show how we can deliberately move from being administrative to being a strategic powerhouse. And I'll do this by aligning 3 levers that I've been asked to focus on: the governance, the talent, and the tools. So this is not a theoretical lesson. I'll be sharing with you operating principles and practical structures and patterns that you can adapt in your own organization. So whether you are already leading a PMO or whether you're preparing to step in that role, it's important that we talk about governance, talent, and tools. Now, the reality that PMOs face, let's ground ourselves in there. Just look at the reality that we are focused on. Regardless of what industry you're here in, you hear people coming to you and saying every project is number one. They come to you as a PMO. The strategy is not clear. There is inconsistencies in the strategy, and it changes frequently. And you don't have the resources as well. They are over-allocated and they are pulled in multiple directions. And the delivery teams that you do have attend endless meetings, yet decisions are very, very slow. So, and PMOs then are called in to fix delivery, but without authority to influence decision. So fix this, fix that, but there's no authority that you are granted. And now when you raise these issues in the organizations, if you have been in the same, if you have experienced what I've experienced, if you raise those issues, how do the senior management react? And Laura Barnard has spoken about this several times. How do they react? They provide more training. Find a course to do. Maybe your templates are not right. Or introduce new processes. Oh, okay, we need more tools. Power BI, let's integrate to that. Let's do that. Oh, we need more reports. So more reports come in. You are given more reports, more dashboards. And those are reports that nobody reads except the one who is compiling that report. Nobody else reads it. You go to a meeting, nobody has read your report. They start reading as you are presenting. And yet it took you hours and hours and hours on end to prepare that. Prepare PowerPoints. And there's no power behind, there's no point behind the power or no power behind the point in those PowerPoints that you present. You are talking about figures and figures and figures and KPIs that don't talk to the most important aspect. So then we start hearing about PMO failures. Our PMO failed. Our PMO failed. So the PMO failed not because you try to fix it with a tool, you try to fix it with the methodology, but it's a system design problem that you actually do have. High impact PMOs, colleagues around the table, they are not built by adding more administration. They are built by designing a decision system, one that can connect your strategy to execution, the one that protects the organization's capacity to deliver what actually matters, something that speaks to your strategy. I, for one, in places where I've been on a record. I've said to my CEO, I had a meeting recently with my group CEO, and I said to him, my job is not to deliver projects here. He looked at me. He was puzzled. So why did we hire you? I said, I told you in the interview, my job is not to deliver projects. My job is to deliver outcomes. Even the name of the project, the names of the projects must relate to the outcomes, not names that relate to technology, that relate to all those complex terms that you can bring in. So my job is to deliver outcomes. So what outcomes are we chasing? Even the name of the project must point to the outcome, not necessarily just we are implementing a CRM system. So what? What are we going to use it for? What outcome are we chasing when we implement that system? So it's important that we can connect our strategy to execution. Very, very key and very, very important. Now, when we look at our governance, that's how decisions are made, how they are escalated, and how they are enforced. When you look at the talent, this is looking at how the capability is structured, how it is grown, how it is deployed. And then we look at the tools. This is how the truth is captured and converted into decision-ready insights. When these three gears move together, the PMO becomes a strategic enabler. But the problem is we always focus on one. And when we focus on one, then the problem, then governance becomes bureaucracy. Talent becomes hero dependent. We start having heroes of project managers sitting in your space. Here is a hero that delivered on time, on budget, within the scope. Then what was the outcome? Zero. What was the benefit? Zero. Nothing. No one knows. But they are heroes. They are known. They are in the books. They got an award for doing that, for doing nothing, for spending the organization's money. Tools become expensive reporting engines. That's what it becomes, because those things are not synchronized. Now, let's focus, because many times we spend more time looking at the tools. Let's bring a slicky tool here. And we are so fixated thinking that when we bring in a tool, it will fix issues. But I've tried here to give you, in terms of sharing effort, the tools is just 10%, by the way. The talent is 70%, and your governance is just 20%. That's the model I follow. You won't find it somewhere else, but that's the model I follow. So what does it mean for me when I'm doing this? It means my focus must be on the talent. And then I look at the governance, how that talent works. And then how the tools enable my talent and my governance to work together. Now, let's dissect these three. And when we're looking at dissecting these three, we are looking from two perspectives: the leadership perspective and the practitioner perspective. It's important. So governance for us, that's the stabilizing gear of the PMO system. It creates clarity for you. It enables decision-making. And then it protects the strategic intent. So for PMO leaders, governance is not about control, it's about clarity. If you were in a class, I would say after me, clarity. So it then helps you to come up with answers to who decides what. So many times we've got too many chefs in the kitchen and we get nothing. So who decides what? At what level? With what information? And within what limits? So high impact PMOs, they will establish this clear governance hierarchy. I'm not talking about structure of the organization. I'm talking about governance hierarchy. And many people confuse the two, the organizational structure and the governance structure of the project. So that clear governance structure, that hierarchy, will separate strategic demand. What is strategic demand? How do we manage that? And then it then looks at another layer that then focuses on portfolio viability and prioritization. Then another layer that looks at the outcome of ownerships. And then another layer that looks at the delivery execution. For those that have been in the trenches, you can already see that your delivery execution, this is your program, your project working group, or a program working group. If you go to your outcomes ownership, you're looking at your project steering or program steering committees. And then you look at the portfolio viability. Now you're looking at a higher level. Perhaps it's a group steer code that you do have that then talks to your demand forum, that is your strategic demand. And all this, if you can't run a golden thread through these forums, you will find people doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And then that delays. That then makes your PMO very likely not to succeed. So the key words here are fit for purpose and flexible governance. Many times we copy and paste. Copy, paste will not make your PMO successful. You need to have flexible and fit for purpose governance. So you are answering three questions here. Are we doing the right work? Are the right people deciding? Are the decisions made in time to protect value? So it's about clarity that I said at the beginning. When those layers are blurred, we see politics. We see escalation overload. We see decision paralysis. No one wants to make a decision. When they are clear, then delivery starts to speed up. When delivery starts to speed up, then we can get our outcomes earlier. Our values will get them earlier. Now, when we look at the practitioner and those aspiring PMO managers, this now is very, very practical, because then at every steering committee, you should be able to answer these questions. What outcomes do we own? What decisions are we authorized to make? What decisions must be escalated and when? And if we know that information, a powerful principle for me that I always emphasize on is this: steerco governs and enables delivery. It does not manage day-to-day execution. But guess what? Your steercos, you go there and you hear a full steerco sitting with senior managers, and all they are debating is the project on 60% progress or 70% progress. 2 hours they are arguing over 60%, over 70%. What does it mean? Nothing, zero. Especially when that number is standing by itself. It communicates nothing. But once we have this clarity about the role of these forums that we have put in place, meetings become shorter because people know what they're talking about. Decisions become very sharp, and delivery teams will regain the focus that they need. So when governance is unclear, then how do we respond? More meetings. Hey, more meetings. We go to a meeting to plan for another meeting, and then go for another meeting to plan for another meeting, meeting after meeting. And how do we compensate with that? More reports. More reports. Your email is flooded. You don't even know which one to read now. And then there's more escalation. This escalation, that escalation. No one is doing anything. They are busy escalating. So now this reduces capacity even further. The very few members and capacity that you have, then it's reduced. So clear governance does the opposite. It will protect your execution capacity. It then ensures that the decisions are taken at the lowest competent level and escalated only when the mandate has been exceeded. That is how governance becomes a speed mechanism, not a bureaucracy. It's important for us to emphasize that point, that governance must speed up things. When a governance starts slowing things down, I'm sorry, you have just entered into that loop where you're not going to be able to get out. And you become a governance office, not a delivery office, not a strategy delivery office. Everyone will avoid bringing work to you because they know if they bring it to you, your first question is, I'm sending you the templates to complete. So they spend more time completing the templates than they spend doing the actual work. They spend more time doing the admin side of things instead of doing the important work that is critical for you to be able to deliver. Now, let's look at the talent. From a leadership lens, when you look at the talent is a multiplier. We must get that. So the PMO's impact is directly proportional to its capability architecture. High impact PMOs do not rely on heroes. Very important. We do not rely on heroes. They rely on clear roles, clear expectations, and progression pathways. It's very, very important, because when you look at it at an enterprise level, the PMO is existing to translate strategy into portfolios that are easy to execute, providing that decision-ready insight, and then assuring delivery discipline and growing the organizational delivery maturity. And this requires intentional talent design, not accidental staffing. If any of my people that I've worked with before are here on the call, they understand when I talk about accidental staffing. You come in, somebody has been problematic in another department, PMO or cost center, give them this resource. They will figure out what to do. So you get people that are not project managers to run your projects. to deliver your projects. They are punished by being put into the PMO, so to speak, because they don't value the PMO, because they cannot link the PMO to the strategy. That's the one I'm talking about, accidental staffing. So effective PMOs and effective PMO leaders, they combine the deep delivery expertise with strong strategic and financial and stakeholder skills. Very important. How do you manage your stakeholders? Do you even know how to manage finances? Can you speak strategy? If you listen to many of the PMO managers and PMO heads when they speak, you do not understand what they're talking about. I'll give you my experience. One time I was in Lesotho and I took the entire exco and I said, I want to show you my ways of work. And after my 1 hour to 2 hours discussion with them, extensive discussions with contributions from all angles, at the end of the session, as I'm standing by the door, the group human capital manager executive came to me and she said to me, for the very first time in my entire career, I've managed to sit in a meeting, a PMO meeting, and understand what they are doing and what I am supposed to do to support the PMO. You rarely hear that. Many times you hear that the human capital people will switch off because you are busy talking about your very important showing off your terminology. We speak project management terminology to the business people who want to hear the dollars and cents. They don't want to hear about your framework. And change management always falls into that trap. They're bringing these articles and the process, and before you know it, you've lost everybody. And the PMO now is referred to as an academic PMO. So talent is very, very important for us to be able to make sure that we can do that. If I'm a practitioner, then role clarity becomes an issue. So in a mature PMO, so the roles are intentionally differentiated. You differentiate the roles. That helps us to know who is responsible for portfolio and governance ownership, who is responsible for delivery, assurance, and reporting, who is responsible for change and benefits enablement. For many PMOs and many organizations, benefits enablement is a swear word. You don't hear about it. And yet we say we are PMO. We want a seat at the table. Oh, you heard the Prime Minister from Canada. If you're not if you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. And that's what happens with many PMOs. We are on the menu. If they decide to cut, they will cut the PMO first. So then we should be able to uplift the capability by coaching, by mentoring them. When roles are unclear, PMOs get pulled into everything. And I'm sure for some of you are saying, yes, that's us. Yes, that's me. Pulled into everything and succeed at nothing. So you do everything, you're busy every day. At the end of the day, you're busy, but you succeed nothing. When roles are clear, then PMOs become trusted business partners. They are not asked to leave the room and feel like outsiders to say, oh, we were discussing the ESCO stuff here. Oh, now we need to go into the deeper stuff. PMO, can you excuse us? No, they won't excuse you because then they will know that you have got a part to play. So for PMO leaders, it's important that talent development must be treated as a managed system, not an ad hoc training. So you must have a defined competence framework. You must have a defined career and progression pathway. You must have community of practice. You must have coaching. You must have measurement of capability uplift over time. Are we improving or we are remaining the same way? This is how PMOs scale. This is how PMOs survive leadership transitions. This is how PMOs sustain credibility. It's important to have what we call a minimum viable talent architecture for your PMO. And for those who are building or maturing a PMO, here is a simple, practical model that you can start with. Define your PMO role profiles and expectations. Are they clear? Establish a baseline competence assessment. Create a development cadence. Don't measure your success of the PMO by how many projects you have delivered. That's nothing. It means nothing to the business. You have delivered 20, so what? Assess, develop your people, and reassess and coach them. Align your development models with organizational needs. Many times you find the PMO and the business, they are going in different directions. You don't need perfection. You just need to be intentional about it and be consistent about it. Now, let's look at the last lever. Tools. What should the tools do? They should enable PMO effectiveness. They should give you insights over compliance, automation for scale, alignment with strategy. The right tools aligned with the governance enable transparency, accountability, and confident decision. Automation must reduce all the manual tasks. You must prioritize tools that generate meaningful insights. Some of the tools are just Excel that went to private school. That's all. And some of the tools that I've seen, in fact, Excel is better than some of the tools that we have seen that people have bought in and spend more money to impact and to implement in the business. Let's talk tools. Tools are not software, please. Tools are not software. Tools is about how the truth is captured, how the insight is generated, and how the decisions are supported. Buying a platform does not create a high-impact PMO. If it was a class, I would say, please repeat after me. Buying a platform does not create a high-impact PMO, but designing how information flows into governance decisions, that's what builds a high-impact PMO. And then for the practitioners, this now translates into something that is a non-negotiable principle. There must be a single point or single source of truth for portfolio data. You can call it spot or a sort, whatever you want to call it, but it's a single point of truth. Without it, then governance debates opinions. Reports will be competing with each other. Leaders will then lose confidence. But with it, conversations will shift from, is the data right? And it becomes, what do we do about it? Because you are getting information, decisions that can be made from the information you are getting from a tool that you are using. Very, very important. Now you find you have several dashboards that people will present. Dashboards are not about visibility. Dashboards are about decision support. I've seen dashboards where PMOs are sounding like crybabies. At the end of the dashboard, you don't even know what they are asking for. What do you want the CEO to do with that dashboard? What information are you communicating? What decision do you want? Every portfolio dashboard should help leaders answer 4 questions. Are we doing the right work? Can we realistically deliver it? Are we getting the value we expected? What must change now? If a dashboard does not help answer these questions, it is noise, not insight. That's what it is. Practitioners, those who are practicing, the discipline is to align your tools to your governance moment. Intake and demand shaping. How do you get your intake? How do you get work injected? How do you manage your demand? How do you shape it? How do you prioritize? How do you get approvals? How do you deliver oversight? How do you do your benefits tracking? When tools align to decisions, PMOs become indispensable. I'll close with this. High impact PMOs are not created by maturity models or certifications alone. You can have a full PMO, everyone with a certification, but they don't know what they're doing. All they are talking about in the meeting is, I am PMP certified. I am PMP certified. So what? Let's see the results. PMOs are designed. They align governance that clarifies decision rights. They align talent that scales capability. They align tools that tell the truth and enable action. High impact PMOs, they talk impact. They talk outcomes. They have a reserved seat at the table. That's where they are wanted. My colleagues, my friends, I want to give you one challenge for the next 30 days in your organization. Can you just fix one governance weakness and tell me the results? Strengthen one talent capability and tell me the results. Improve one decision enabling tool or insight. Tell me the result. I am in an organization right now where I have said I'm going to print the role of the sponsor, laminate it and give it to her and say, put it on your desk. So at least you can be reminded every day in terms of your role. What is this steer doing? Here is the role. You get that here. These are small, deliberate moves, but they compound quickly. I want to show you a picture of some of the successful PMO leaders. They don't have names, but this has been successful. My friends, my colleagues, I've left one opening for you. May this be you. May this space that I've left there, may we add your picture there. May we add your photo there. And we say, these have been successful PMO leaders. We have got a seat at the table. They make sense when they speak. Colleagues, successful PMOs, my people, are never packaged in a PowerPoint. It is in the people. I want to thank you. Kevin, I will hand you back. I will hand back to you for discussion and any other additionals that you want to pick up. And it was good speaking to the people, to our colleagues, and we are here now. Thank you, Kevin. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Vito. Thank you for your passion. I think finally we found a subject that allow you to speak from your heart. So, Lord, today we are also with Lord Kelly, who is one of the GSSA team member. So, Lord, do we have some question in the chat?
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, whatever you are. I will present the question to our speakers directly. Could use the name and answer those questions. I will go to the chat and bring the question in.
Okay. So, as Lord is going to the chat, I have one question for you, Victor. You said we should be at the table, not in the menu, but how do we succeed to sit at that table and be closer to the strategy from your perspective?
I saw that coming. Thanks, Kevin. You do not campaign to sit at the table. You do not write. What do those politicians write again? Manifesto. You don't write a manifesto to have a seat at the table. A seat at the table, you earn it by making decisions better and faster. not by producing more reporting. No. If you produce more reports, you are just, for lack of a better word, you are just pissing them off. They're basically saying, this guy, he says that's report after report. I remember there's a time when I joined an organization and the first report that was handed over to me was over 120 pages for the PMO. And I said to myself, who reads that? And what do they get? When they cannot answer the questions at the table, they will start finding the person that can answer those questions at that table. And that table will create a seat for you. So a high impact PMO is a decision system that connects strategy to execution. And what is it doing? By so doing, you are protecting your organizational capacity for what matters. So the quickest way is to re-anchor the PMO on outcomes. Start speaking outcomes language. Start speaking and asking, what are we going to get? Why are we doing? Ask why. I mean, behave like kids. If your kids are like mine, if you tell them something, they'll ask why. You expect they say why. Why? So ask why more and more. You are not a journalist. Some PMOs are staffed by journalists. They hear, they write, they produce, they don't process. We want to start processing information, define the outcomes that we are chasing, ensure that the project point to outcomes, and show the leadership decision-ready insights that clarify what must change now. The problem is many PMOs go to executives with problems, no solutions, no options. It's problem after problem, excuse and excuse for not delivering. We don't even own up and say, I couldn't because. No, we just say we always fight and fight and fight and fight. And that's the challenge that we do have. So we need to practically shift from policeman syndrome and shift from admin and move into decision enablement. So we want to have those questions. Are we doing the right work? Ask those questions as the PMO. Are the right people deciding? Ask those questions as the PMO. Are the decisions made in time to protect the value? When we consistently enable those answers, leadership pulls the PMO into the strategy room.
Okay, and thank you, Victor. And by saying that, you also say that we should work on the governance, and governance usually is seen as bureaucracy. So is it an approach so you can build it differently? What is your governance style? How do you make it to not be seen like bureaucracy, but really represent, you say, the 20% that allow the 70% of talent to really deliver the value?
If you and I have gone to some of the shops and they have closed, and you get there and there's a security guard standing there, and they tell you, we are closed. If you want to see somebody who feels more power, is the guy who tells you that we are closed, regardless of what car you are driving. They will tell you we are closed. What does it mean? What am I trying to say? Many PMOs feel very, very empowered when they use governance to punish the business. You are not going to do this until you complete this template. You are not going to do this until it is approved here. So we then introduce governance as control, when in actual fact, governance must be treated as clarity. So governance is a stabilizing gear. It's clarity. Who decides what, at what level, with what information, and within what limits. When those layers are blurred, that's where we have all this politics, the overload, the decision paralysis. then deliveries, then slowed down and everything. So governance is clarity. Run away from the fact that governance is control. It is important for us to be able to make sure that even when you start with your steering committee, let them ask themselves these questions. What outcomes do we own? What decisions are we authorized to make? What decision must be escalated and when? Then it helps you to reduce the noise and protect the delivery capacity. So it helps you to have those. So the key word that you must take out from a governance perspective is clarity. How clear is it for you to be able to have people operating? They might be operating individual, but as a whole, to make sure that we can deliver on the mandate of the PMO.
Okay, I can see that. I think Lords has found some question in the chat. Lords, over to you.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. We have one question from Rudy Van. I think the question is visible. How do you make key decision makers, like CEOs, to realize that their business is hurting for as long as they don't have a high impact PMO? That is a good question for you.
Okay, all right. This is a very good question, and you will get a different answer from a different person every time you speak to them. First of all, you are pitching the question right. How do you make the key decision maker, the CEO, realize? You might not have the power to make them realize, because I'm not even sure if you are there yet with the PMO and you are being disregarded, or there is no PMO at all and they are trying to introduce that PMO. I'll tell you what happened from experience. Experience taught me that there were issues that were arising from an execution perspective in terms of projects. And a consultant had to be called in to come in and assess and ask the difficult questions. Why are we not moving? Why? What is the problem? And the answer came back to the one thing. You do not have a high impact PMO. 2 times it was done. Why? So that at least they could then get the verification that indeed it was correct, that a high impact PMO was needed. Then from that angle, it became the buy-in started from the CEO and it started filtering down to all the other levels, because they realized that the outcomes that they were chasing, they were not going to get them as long as no one was doing the work. So if they can, it talks to what I was just talking about just now in terms of making sure that you drive towards outcomes. Stop talking. I've spoken to some teams before. Stop talking the PM jargon. Stop talking the PMO jargon. Stop talking certain terms. Sometimes people don't even want to hear that it's called a business case. Sometimes you don't need to say that it is a business case. Sometimes it's about, tell me what you want, when, and why, and how. You ask them questions, then you convert that into a business case. But many times what we do, somebody says, I want to do this. You go to your email, then you send them this 100-page template of a business case and say, do this and come, let's talk. It's like IT saying log a call for any problem, but I don't have the capability and capacity to log my call because my machine is down, log a call. You won't get anywhere. So the whole idea is to make sure that the CEO, the picture that I showed you there from the PMBOK, which links your strategy to your portfolios, to your programming projects, and to your operations. If you can run that golden thread for your CEO, then we can start talking around, they now start seeing value in what you do, and they will support you in the journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. I think on the side, Rudy is now okay with the answer. So let me bring in another question from Lamni. Is really close to the last one. How will you advise PMO leaders to differentiate between a PMO that provides a service to the business and a PMO that supports the business?
That's a very good question, Norma. Very good question and a very difficult one, so to speak. Most depending on who you speak to, you might find that they providing a service to the business and supporting the business could be seen as one and the same thing. But perhaps I'll try and understand it from this angle and say, if you are saying they are providing a service, they are a standalone PMO, they are sitting there, they are summoned to do work, summoned to do a service, and they go back into the coil. In other words, they are not part and parcel of the end-to-end running of the business. They just provide a service. You are a cost center. But when you are supporting a business, you are making sure that you are with them from day one, end to end. You are sitting in those sessions trying to understand where are the problems. In other words, when you are even reporting yourself, you also start touching on some of those issues. In fact, I'm sure you would have heard about this story of this security guard that was asked, says, what do you do here? And he says, I make sure that the customers are comfortable. He did not say, my job is to guard this place. He says, I want the customers to be comfortable and so that they can be able to execute their duties in this organization without any other doubt that they are safe. So you see the way he spinned that answer was to associate himself with the answers, associate himself with the P&L. He saw himself as a contributor to the profit and loss of this organization. He saw himself as contributing to the balance sheet of that organization. And when you are a good PMO, you are supporting a business, you are there to make sure that you understand the financials, you understand the gaps, you understand what you are doing to contribute towards it. So even your language changes. The language becomes, we are doing this. We are in this sector. We are in this sector. You don't say they are doing this and I come in and support. The more important point is you as the PMO, you need to disrupt before you are disrupted. You need to come in with solutions to the business problems. But what we do many times, we pick up a framework from somewhere, copy, paste it, and we think that it will work. Some will tell you that we are agile in our organization. We are agile. And what do they mean by being agile? Having a daily stand-up. And they think now they are agile. So all those things, and then you throw in all those terms to the organization, to the business. They will just think that, oh, you bring in terms and everything, but you're not part and parcel of the business. Stay there. We are here. We need to make sure that we can get ourselves immersed and involved in what the business is doing. I hope, Norma, I answered your question with so many words.
Thank you for bringing a very high level of quality. And I will take this one from Nomzamo. What are the metrics for measuring a successful PMO?
Nomzamo, you are asking a very difficult question. You will find so many matrices, and each ones are shaped by how you are running your PMO. I was once in an environment where the matrices of the successful PMO was about how many projects did you deliver, how many did you cancel, how many did you do this, how many did you do this, and all those factors, but they only spoke to the PMO. And I've since stopped doing that. I've said to myself, I'm not going to use such kind of matrices to measure my PMO, but I'm going now to focus on the matrix that speaks to the outcomes. When I speak to the outcomes, I'm speaking to what is the business chasing? What do they want to do? That's why you find in some organizations, the PMO is now called the Strategy Delivery Office, Value Management Office. All those names are coming in because now people are realizing that the traditional matrices, the traditional KPIs, they no longer help at all. I was in the process of coming up with my scorecard for the year. And then I said to myself, if my scorecard does not speak to the business, then I'm not helping. It must speak to the business, speak to the outcomes, speak to the work that I'm doing and the value I'm trying to produce. If I can get that clarity, then it means I can now start measuring and say, oh, in our organization, it's very clear in terms of how we deliver our outcomes. Everyone knows what they're doing. That becomes a very important matrix for me in terms of my success. So yeah, so this is one can explore as many as they want to, and best practice will show you a whole different values that you can use from a matrix perspective.
Okay, Kevin, I will give you back the floor. But before that, I just want to bring some clarity from the audience to the audience. For those who share their PMI ID, PMOGA will follow the process to make them get the PDU related to this session. And I will give you back the floor. If I have
Okay,
any
thank you, Lord.
comments, I will come back.
Okay, thank you, Lord. I also saw that question in the chat talking about the videos. So finally, Victor, uh, Lord, how many time do we have now from closing?
We've run over actually.
Okay, so finally, Victor, this conversation uh, teaches us that behind every successful PMO are people. People as leaders and as practitioners who choose to shape the system and not run or operate within it. And we should make connection between the strategy and how we execute it. We should decide to use a template because it fits our purpose and not because maybe it is the most downloaded template in on a platform or somewhere else. And I think when you start, you say that it is not an African issue. All the PMOs around the world have the same, as similar challenges, but it's a question of context. And I've been running a PMO before without mandate. I've also been using templates to send to project managers so they can fill it. Sometimes you get half filled templates. Sometimes you said, I was laughing because in the past I was also in the meeting and they said, okay, the PMO session is over. You can go. We are going to continue the meeting. So you just coming to deliver. But one point is that you said that we should engage the conversation and make them understand. We should not go to run and chase our place to the table, but make them understand that we can bring value, we can make impact. And I think that resonates with me and with many people in the chat. I see the message. And thank you for that because today I learned by uh, moderating this webinar. I've got my insights. I don't know for the others. I see Lord is showing in our question. Shall we go through this before closing?
Yes, Kevin, if you can take this one. There is a
Okay.
question in the message. What is the job to done? I think that is the job to done by the PMO or for the PMO for the business.
It doesn't look like Blessing is asked me. Blessing, I think, is actually commenting and saying, if you answer this question that says, what is the job to be done? If your project answer this question, then you are up there as a PMO. I think he's basically supporting in terms of getting that clarity, because many times we don't have that clarity. What is the project going to achieve? What is it doing? So I think it's important that you answer that question. And as a project manager or as a PMO, whatever meeting that you have, I've done this from my experience. Every steerco agenda speaks to benefits. It speaks to viability. It speaks to feasibility. Is this project still feasible? Is this project still viable? Because many PMOs, they are scared of calling out things to say, guys, we are just burning money here. We are not going anywhere. So we keep on going on and on and on and on, spending more and more money. You have heard about those projects that continue on and on. They don't realize any value because people were scared to can that project, to say, let's stop and let's recalculate. I think it's important to use that language, recalculating, so at least the business knows what they're doing. And many times you find if there's no clarity, there's no owner. No owner. Projects are floating. In fact, in one organization, I said, if there's no owner, we can't start. Sorry. I cannot start a project that is no owner. I cannot start a project that is no sponsor. How do you then intend running that project if you don't have a sponsor, if you don't have an owner? You can't be everything as a PMO. Then people will ask you to do everything. You become the owner, the sponsor, the deliverer, the benefits owner, and everything. Now, what then happens when you do that? You are encouraging flooding. Flooding will happen. That I can assure you. Flooding will happen. But if you want to avoid flooding, improve the flow. That's what it takes. Back to you, Kevin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lords. Thank you, Victor, for having this session with us, sharing your insights from your art. And on behalf of the PMOG Sub-Saharan Africa Hub, I would like to thank our speaker. And this is sharing practical insights, and you come to us contributing to this important conversation to help the community grow. I think from today, I saw someone say that he has a different perspective now. So we are going to impact our company, our organization, and we are going to be high impact PMOs. So I'm not sure we are going to do 70%, 20 and 10, but we will try to do our own. And we hope today's session has given you an idea that you can take back as well. And thank you all for being part of this webinar. We look forward to continue this dialogue within the PMO community that you can join online. You can, I think, Los, you can maybe share the slides with the link or put the link in the chat. So we have a community online that you can join and continue this conversation to ask questions, take insight, and also share your knowledge, your experience. I think it is community.pmoj.org. If you can share it, log. And you also have the LinkedIn of Victor in the chat in case you want to connect with him. Okay. So I think we share it in the thank you letter to you. you will see everything so you can access the platform. And yes, you will get the presentation as well by email. So I'm trying to keep the mic until Lords come back.
Okay, I got a connection challenge. Sorry.
Okay.
We'll share the presentation with the link, inviting attendees to join the community, the different community, the PMOGA, the Sub-Saharan Africa hubs, and there is also, I've seen in the chat the linking uh, for to join to get in touch with Victor. I'm also informed our attendees that this webinar is registry. They could get access to it later through the same link they use to join in. So let's get in touch in our community. You have the floor, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye, Victor. Bye, Lords.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Yes. All the best.